Imagine you are standing in the supermarket aisle. You reach out for a bag of chocolate powder, only to realize there are two nearly identical options sitting side by side. One says cacao, the other says cocoa. Same color, same shape, same picture of a cacao pod on the front. But different prices, different promises. And if you taste them, entirely different experiences. And here's the paradox that stops you for a moment. If they both come from the exact same seed, why do they taste different, behave differently, and even serve different purposes in your kitchen? Is this just another supermarket marketing trick? Or is there a deeper story hiding inside that dark brown powder? Let's unravel a mystery that most people don't even know exists. The shocking difference between cacao versus cocoa. Hi, I'm Frank. Nice to see you again, and welcome to Secrets of Simple Things. What are cacao and cocoa really? Let's clear up the confusion once and for all, because despite the endless debate on the internet and the marketing noise on supermarket shelves, the truth is far simpler than most people imagine. Both cacao and cocoa begin their story on the very same tree, Theobroma cacao, a name bestowed by the ancient Greeks meaning food of the gods. A reminder that long before chocolate became a global commodity, it was considered something sacred, mysterious, almost divine. From this single tree, with its jewel-like pods bursting with seeds, humanity somehow produced not one, but two distinct ingredients that now shape everything we know about chocolate. Cacao is the version that stays closest to its origins. The seeds are fermented, dried under the sun, and then processed with extraordinary care, cold-pressed or gently ground at low temperatures. This minimal handling preserves much of the bean's natural character, the living enzymes, the dense network of antioxidants, and the deep complexity of flavors. Cacao tastes like chocolate in its most ancient primal form, sharp, intense, earthy, sometimes carrying hidden notes of fruit or smoke depending on where the beans grew. Cocoa, by contrast, is what happens when humans invite heat into the process. Once the beans are roasted, something remarkable occurs. Bitterness softens, aromas deepen, and the resulting powder dissolves more easily into milk or water. And when cocoa undergoes Dutch processing, an alkalization method invented in the 19th century, it becomes even darker, smoother, and milder, a powder designed for comfort and consistency rather than raw intensity. So if you need a simple way to remember the difference, cacao is the untouched ancestor of dark chocolate, bold, wild, a little unruly. Cocoa is its refined descendant, gentler, smoother, shaped deliberately for everyday use. They may come from the same pod, the same pulp, the same seed, but they represent two completely different philosophies about what chocolate should be. One prioritizes purity and preservation. The other embraces transformation and accessibility. And the dividing line between them isn't botanical, agricultural, or even cultural. It all comes down to one element, one invisible force that changes everything: temperature. From sacred pods to modern pantries. To truly understand the divide between cacao and cocoa, we have to travel back, far beyond supermarket aisles and recipe blogs, to a time when this humble pod was not a pantry item, but a sacred gift. Long before chocolate bars and hot cocoa mixes, the Maya and the Aztec stood beneath tropical canopies and saw in the cacao pod something divine, something bestowed upon them by Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god. For them, cacao was never just food. It was currency, shimmering with spiritual value. Chroniclers wrote that 100 seeds could buy a turkey hen, a testament to how profoundly this tiny bean shaped their economy and their rituals. Yet even currency was only the beginning of its power. Cacao lived its true life inside a ceremonial drink called chocolatey, a bitter, frothy, spicy elixir infused with chili, vanilla, and fragrant blossoms. It wasn't meant to soothe the sweet tooth, it was meant to awaken the soul. Warriors drank it before battle. Kings sipped it during sacred gatherings. Healers used it as medicine. Priests used it as offering. Cacao was magic. Cacao was status. Cacao was life woven into ritual. Then the world shifted. Spanish ships carried cacao across the Atlantic, placing this once divine pod into European hands. There, alchemy of a different kind began. Sugar softened its bitterness, cinnamon warmed its profile, and milk turned it into something recognizable to us today, an early ancestor of modern hot chocolate. But the transformation didn't end there. The true turning point arrived in the 19th century, when the Industrial Revolution poured steel and machinery into the world. Roasting technologies evolved. Factories learned to process cacao efficiently and at scale. And in that moment, cocoa was born. A powder more stable, more portable, more profitable, engineered for mass production rather than ritual. What began as a sacred drink of emperors became the backbone of a global chocolate empire worth billions. And somewhere along that long journey, between ancient forests and fluorescent supermarket shelves, the cacao pod split into two destinies. One remained raw, reverent, and close to its ceremonial roots. The other became roasted, industrial, and designed for the modern world. This is how a sacred pod stepped out of myth and into your pantry. How cacao becomes cocoa. Let's walk through the journey of the cacao pod, because the split between cacao and cocoa happens right in the heart of the process. First, farmers harvest ripe cacao pods, which have bright yellow, orange, sometimes deep red. They crack them open to reveal sticky white pulp hiding dozens of seeds. And then, the magic begins. Fermentation, about 5 to 7 days. This is where the unmistakable chocolate aroma develops. Without this step, cacao tastes nothing like chocolate. Next, the beans are dried under the sun, slowly losing moisture. Up to this point, both cacao and cocoa are identical. But now comes the fork in the road. For cacao products, the beans are left unroasted or roasted extremely lightly below 42 to 50 degrees Celsius. They are cold-pressed or gently ground. This preserves enzymes, antioxidants, and the intense raw flavor. You get cacao nibs, cacao paste, cacao butter, and cacao powder, all closer to how ancient civilizations consumed them. For cocoa, the beans undergo high-temperature roasting. Sometimes they are alkalized, Dutch processing, to mellow acidity and bitterness. The result is smoother, darker, easier to dissolve, and ideal for baking. Here's the philosophical divide. Cacao chooses to preserve. Cocoa chooses to transform. And that difference affects everything, from nutrition to flavor to culture. The power of heat. So what does heat actually do? Heat breaks down polyphenols and flavonoids, the powerful antioxidants that give cacao its reputation as a superfood. Raw cacao can contain significantly more of these compounds than roasted cocoa. Research shows that flavonoids support heart health, cognitive function, blood flow, and stress reduction. But before we declare cacao the winner, we have to acknowledge what roasting adds. Roasting enhances the Maillard reactions, creating deeper aromas, richer chocolate notes, and smoother textures. It removes harsh bitterness and brings out warmth and comfort. In short, heat doesn't destroy chocolate. It tames it. Cacao is wild and untamed. Cocoa is softened and familiar. Both forms exist because humans need both experiences. Let's debunk some common misunderstandings. Myth 1. Cacao is always healthier. Not necessarily. Some cacao powders are heavily sweetened to mask bitterness. Some raw cacao isn't truly raw. The fermentation process can naturally exceed 45 degrees Celsius. Myth 2. Cocoa is unhealthy. Wrong. Unsweetened cocoa powder still carries nutrients, antioxidants, and fiber. The problem isn't cocoa, it's added sugar in commercial chocolate drinks. Myth 3. You can substitute cacao and cocoa 1-to-1. In some recipes, especially baking, cacao's acidity and cocoa's alkalinity behave differently. Using the wrong one can ruin a cake's rise or texture. The truth is simple. Each has a role. Each has a purpose. Flavor, a tale of two experiences. To truly grasp the difference, imagine placing both powders before you and tasting them one after the other, as if sampling two completely different worlds born from the same seed. Cacao hits first sharp, unapologetic, almost electric on the tongue. Its bitterness is not harsh, but honest, carrying the earth in which it grew. You catch hints of fruit in the background, subtle ripples of smoke or fleeting traces of flowers, each note revealing itself like secrets whispered by the forest. It lingers long after you swallow, a deep, unpolished darkness, the taste of chocolate before humans tried to tame it. Cocoa, by contrast, slips in with familiarity. Warm, velvety, soothing, it melts into milk without hesitation, turning instantly into something you've known your entire life. It tastes like childhood mugs held between cold hands, like winter nights wrapped in blankets, like stories told beside a heater while snow gathers by the window. One is primal, raw, and true to its origins. The other is memory, softened by time and shaped by human hands. We have joined both of two brothers in cocoa family. Today, cacao and cocoa each dominate their own corners of the culinary world. Cacao is the hero of the health movement. Smoothies, acai bowls, raw desserts, energy balls, superfood blends, yogurt toppings, fresh granola bowls. It's used by people who want nutrition first, flavor second. Cocoa is the backbone of comfort food. Brownies, lava cakes, cookies, hot chocolate, chocolate ice cream, baking mixes, industrial chocolate bars. Cocoa built the entire chocolate industry we know today. If cacao is nutrition first, cocoa is comfort first. And most of us, whether we realize it or not, use both. What this difference really means. But beneath all these scientific and culinary differences lies something deeper, something about how humans relate to nature. From a single cacao seed, humanity carved out two paths. One that stays close to its origins, raw, powerful, unaltered. One that changes to fit us, milder, smoother, adapted. In many ways, cacao and cocoa reflect two ways of living. One chases purity, one chases comfort. Neither is right, neither is wrong. Both tell a story. Even the words cacao and cocoa carry the weight of history, colonial trade routes, industrial revolutions, shifting tastes, and evolving identities. Sometimes the simplest ingredients teach us the biggest lessons. Purity is one path, comfort is another, and both reveal who we are. So now that you've followed the journey from ancient ceremonies to modern kitchen shelves, we can finally return to the question everyone asks: which one is better, cacao or cocoa? And the truth is far less dramatic than you might expect. Neither wins, neither loses, because they were never created to battle each other. They were created to coexist, two branches of the same story, shaped by time, culture, and our own evolving tastes. Cacao stands bold and unfiltered, raw and nutrient-dense, carrying the wild heartbeat of the original bean. Cocoa arrives softer, smoother, endlessly versatile, the version humanity crafted for warmth, comfort, and everyday life. Chocolate didn't simply evolve over centuries. It adapted, shifting with every civilization that touched it, absorbing each era's technology, philosophy, and desires. And today, every spoonful, whether it's the earthy punch of cacao or the velvety richness of cocoa, holds more than flavor. It carries thousands of years of history. It carries the memory of sacred rituals, the rise of global trade, the mastery of science, and the imagination of every culture that ever tasted it. So the question isn't which one is better. The question is, which story do you choose to taste today? If you enjoyed this journey through the world of flavor, don't forget to leave a comment below. What's your choice? Cacao or cocoa? And of course, subscribe to Secrets of Simple Things for more stories hidden in the everyday, from the experiences to the taste of time. Because sometimes the most ordinary things, even a sip of hot cacao, can tell the most extraordinary stories.